Which of these two sound files do you prefer? One of them is Loop Experience 2, and the other is a mystery plug that we'll talk about later in this video. Let me know which of those two audio files you thought sounded better. Hi all, welcome back to Hearing Tracker. I'm Dr. Stephen Taddei, and today we're taking a hands-on and lab-tested look at Loop earplugs. We'll go through the unboxing, my real-world use of these earplugs, we'll share some lab data from HearAdvisor, and we're going to listen to audio files, so get your headphones ready. I've honestly been using Loop the past few years for concerts, woodworking, social settings, so I have a fairly decent knowledge of what they have to offer, and I'd like to share with you what I've learned using them and whether I ultimately like them and recommend them for, say, friends or family. This video is going to be a big one, and I don't want it to be a slog. When thinking about how to shoot it, I thought about maybe breaking it out into multiple videos, covering engage, switch, etc. separately, but I ultimately decided to keep them together so you have one succinct place with all of these thoughts and those sound files. But if you don't feel like listening to me yap about plugs you might not be interested in, feel free to use the listed chapters below and jump around. That's what they're there for. Let's also get this out of the way. Loop has not sponsored this video. In fact, if Loop is watching this and wants to pay me, I'll leave my contact email in the video description. So as I mentioned, I've been using Loop earplugs for many years, and more commonly I use Loop Experience 2 and Switch 2 because I ultimately do like these plugs. Now, here's a big shocker to start. The sound quality of these plugs isn't the best, but for me, it is good enough. I have a shelf full of pretty much every musician's earplug or concert earplug on the market, such as Eargasm Hi-Fi, that do sound much better, at least to my ears. But there are a few key reasons I've been sticking with Loop for passive hearing protection. And I do want to go over those with you, but let's take a quick look at the earplugs we'll be unpacking. First, we'll be looking at Engage 2, and this is Loop's conversation plug, which is designed for social settings or really anyone looking for mild reduction. You can purchase Engage 2 for around $34.95 online, or there is also a plus model for $44.95 that includes 3 extra sized foam tips and mutes. Now, we'll discuss this in greater length later, but the mutes do offer a few decibels of extra protection. Engage 2 have a noise reduction rating of 8. We'll also be unpacking Experience 2, Loop's concert or musician earplug. Now, these are designed to preserve sound quality with a special acoustic filter and acoustic channel. Together, these aim to more evenly reduce all sounds across the bass, middle, and treble. And that's so music hopefully maintains its overall good quality at a quieter volume. We'll dig into how well this works later, so stick around if you're more of an audiophile like me. Experience 2 are also available for $34.95 or $44.95 if you want the Plus version. Again, that includes 3 extra size foam tips and mutes. Now, these have a noise reduction rating of 12. Next up is Quiet 2. These are Loop's plug for focus, sleep, or other situations where you maybe want more maximal sound reduction. They are slightly less expensive at $24.95. They have a published noise reduction rating of 14. Now, last but not least, Switch 2. These are Loop's do-it-all plug, offering switchable filters that basically combine Engage 2, Experience 2, and Quiet 2 into one impressively versatile plug. You'll find them for around $59.95, and they have a noise reduction rating of 14, 17, or 20 for the Engage, Experience, and Quiet filters, respectively. Now, that might spark a question in your mind on whether Switch actually captures the individual filters of their other plugs. And that is honestly a great question, and I'll spill the beans right now by saying it's close. It's not exactly the same. You may even be noticing that the published noise reduction ratings vary, pointing to slight variations in their overall performance. We'll offer more direct sound comparisons of this later in the video, but before we get too far, here is our scorecard for each plug, summarizing all of our testing. If you want more of the granular data, you can check out my full review, and I'll include a link below. Also, if you are finding this video helpful, please do me a favor and consider subscribing and or hitting the like button. Believe me, I find it kind of an annoying part of this social media game, but doing so helps us reach more people and ultimately continue to create content like this. And Believe me when I say I love talking about earplugs and hearing conservation. I'm kind of a party animal like that. So if you are finding value in this video and what we've offered so far, I would appreciate your support. Next up, let's take a quick look at what comes in the box with each of these earplugs. All right, so we're going to start with Loop Engage 2, and don't worry, we are not going to show the unboxing of every single device. That would take far too long. I did actually record that footage though, so if you want to see it, maybe leave me a comment and I can publish that in another video. Inside the box, Loop provides some performance test data, and then on the back you can see the noise reduction rating. If this is your first time using Loop products and or earplugs, I definitely recommend you take a look at the user manual. Each one of these earplugs is a little different, and there are some helpful hints when it comes to getting a good fit. As I said, the unboxing is pretty similar across all of these devices, but let's hit on a few key points. So this is Loop Experience 2, which is again the concert earplug, and you can see that tiny little pinhole which leads to the soundbar and acoustic filter. Now we're looking at the mute, which comes with the Plus version that sits inside the torus portion of the earplug and offers more sound reduction. Here you can see the extra tips in mutes that come with the Plus version, and those extra tips are a kind of memory foam material. Switching gears slightly, I wanted to show you Quiet 2 because unlike Loop's other earplugs, they are made from a softer material, which will definitely be more comfortable if you intend to use them for sleep. All right, let's change gears and talk about Switch 2. Avoided a rough pun there, but I just wanted to show you the 3 different modes up close because there are little circle indications on the side of the earplug. Something else that you will want to be aware of with these earplugs, Switch 2 specifically, is that they are ear specific. There is a left and a right one. And the difficulty you will find if you get them mixed up is that you won't really be able to easily make the switch from one setting to the next. One other difference with the Loop Switch 2 earplugs, and I'm not sure why Loop does this only with Switch 2 and not their other earplugs, is that the ear tips actually have multiple layers to them. I don't want to go so far as to say that this helps improve the overall sound reduction that you experience, but I do find that having, I guess, just that double layered tip, they do fit my ears a little bit better. And as a result of that, I like the overall experience. So as I mentioned previously, I've been using Loop earplugs of my own volition for years, so I have a good sense of how they work, at least for me. However, this past week there was a local show from actually an ex-student of mine who's a very talented musician, and I wanted to use that as an opportunity to kind of retest all of these plugs and share some of my thoughts in real time with you. So here's some footage of that show.
All your problems organized in a cabinet locked inside. What rules did they teach you? What phase did you bleed through? A decade goes by.
Listen to those pipes. Like I said, this is Eli Parker, and he is an upcoming local singer-songwriter. And honestly, nowadays, with all of the AI slop circulating the internet, and I mean it, he only has one song that uses the word dust in the title, but it's honestly great to hear genuine talent from actual artists like Eli, and he's a really nice guy to boot. So if you like his music, send him some support. You can find him pretty much anywhere online where you get your music, and this song is Take It As a Sign. All right, but now back to earplugs. So you can see me here swapping out Engage 2, Experience 2, Quiet 2, and Switch 2. To be fair, this show wasn't overly loud and it was averaging somewhere around the low 90s, so hearing protection may not be needed from a safety perspective. However, there are still plenty of reasons you might want to wear hearing protection, such as general comfort and or to help you hear better. The different loop filters and or earplugs definitely offer benefits. For example, when conversing with the server or anyone else there, it was definitely better for me to use the Engage 2 earplug. Similarly, when focusing on the music, I prefer the Experience 2 earplug. While this show's sound levels weren't really loud enough to need it, I have used that Quiet 2 filter, which does offer more sound reduction. It is very convenient to be able to switch between these filters based on your environment. However, it will ultimately be up to you whether that added convenience is worth the extra cost. But we still have a lot to do in the lab, and I'm eager for you to hear the sound files of all these earplugs, so let's get back to that. And one last thank you to Eli Parker. Okay, let's switch gears and see how loop earplugs perform in the HearAdvisor lab. If you're not familiar, HearAdvisor is our partner lab where I am the lab director and perform all of the objective testing. Now, the goal of HearAdvisor is to use industry standards and the latest science to predict audio performance. It gets really technical and nerdy, but that's how we like it. Here are the results for loop earplugs across HearAdvisor's sound quality metrics. If you'd like more information about HearAdvisor and the tests that we perform, feel free to visit hearadvisor.com and or watch there/our videos. Now let's listen to some audio files based on the measurements from HearAdvisor. Given that each of these earplugs is designed for slightly different purposes, we'll be switching the sound files between examples to align with their intended use. For Engage, you'll hear a cafe setting, some music for Experience 2, and street noise for Quiet 2. Now, given that Switch 2 is meant to emulate those specific filters, I will also include a sound file of that respective filter in each of those cases. For all of these, you'll notice a big drop in volume because that's what earplugs do. They block sound, so try not to adjust the volume between audio files. I have some level matched versions that we'll listen to in just a moment.
Did you hear the news last night?
No, I must have missed it.
Looks like we're finally getting a break. I mean, it's supposed to be sunny all weekend. Did you hear the news last night?
No, I must have missed it.
Looks like we're finally getting a break. I mean, it's supposed to be sunny all weekend. Did you hear the news last night?
No, I must have missed it.
Looks like we're finally getting a break. I mean, it's supposed to be sunny all weekend. Did you hear the news last night?
No, I must have missed it.
Looks like we're finally getting a break. I mean, it's supposed to be sunny all weekend. Did you hear the news last night?
No, I must have missed it.
Looks like we're finally getting a break. I mean, it's supposed to be sunny all weekend.
Now let's hear those same audio files with the levels matched, and this is done so that you can focus more on how they influence sound quality without the volume differences. We will do this for all of the plugs in the same order, but really these level matched examples are mainly for experience or loops musicians earplugs.
Did you hear the news last night?
No, I must have missed it.
Looks like we're finally getting a break. I mean, it's supposed to be sunny all weekend. Did you hear the news last night?
No, I must have missed it.
Looks like we're finally getting a break. I mean, it's supposed to be sunny all weekend. Did you hear the news last night?
No, I I must have missed it.
Looks like we're finally getting a break. I mean, it's supposed to be sunny all weekend. Did you hear the news last night?
No, I must have missed it.
Looks like we're finally getting a break. I mean, it's supposed to be sunny all weekend. Did you hear the news last night?
No, I must have missed it.
Looks like we're finally getting a break. I mean, it's supposed to be sunny all weekend.
Okay, so after all of that, how do loop earplugs hold up? Let's start with Engage 2. They are comfortable and they do work well. While using them, I've found them to dip a little bit too much in the high frequencies, which is bad because that roughly 3 to 6 kilohertz region is where speech clarity comes from. So it is slightly counterproductive for a conversation earplug to reduce this frequency range more relative to bass, but it's not a deal breaker. The mute is really a nice addition if you go with the plus option, and whether I'm using Engage 2 or Experience 2, I find myself using the mute often. Now, if we talk about Experience 2, as I mentioned before, the sound quality is okay, but it's not the best or the flattest earplug I've used. Other plugs like Westone True Music, Sennheiser Sound Protect Plus, Eargasm, they definitely offer more balanced sound reduction. In fact, if you remember those original sound files that we played at the beginning, A was Loop Experience 2 and B was Eargasm High Fidelity. To my ears, Eargasm sounds far more natural, but everyone's ears and preferences are different, so feel free to disagree with me in the comments below. So why don't I use Eargasm earplugs? Well, I honestly struggle to get a good fit, and I can't wear their plugs more than a few minutes before having to push them back in because they're kind of working their way out of my ears. So while it's not the hottest topic to talk about, fit is key. The best sounding earplug is kind of useless if it keeps falling out of your ears. And without getting too technical, even a pinhole leak in fit drastically changes how an earplug sounds and ultimately how effective it is at protecting your ears. Now, before you hit the comments, I am not saying those plugs are useless. Eargasm are great, as are many other musicians' earplugs out there. They just don't fit my ears, and therefore they don't work well for me. Now that has led to me using Loop. And again, no, this is not a sponsored commercial. To be honest, one major downside of Loop earplugs is they have very bad occlusion. And by that, I mean your voice or chewing sounds are pronounced while wearing these earplugs. So for example, if you have misophonia and are triggered by chewing sounds, they're probably not the best option for you. Other plugs like Etymotic Research ER20XS are better in this regard as they sit deeper in your ears. Now switching to Quiet 2, they are a great plug. Their soft, squishy design is perfect for sleep. Their lower cost also reflects their easier design, given there's no filter, and this is a nice move loop as they could have just kept the price identical. Alright, but what about Switch 2? Well, I do find them to be an effective combination of all of Loop's earplugs. They're not the exact same, but again, they're close enough. It is very nice to be able to change settings easily. For example, I will often use Engage settings, between sets, when I want to hear better and the volume is slightly less. Then when the band starts, maybe I switch to Experience 2. Now, let's say the front of house engineer and or just the venue don't really care about your ears and they blast you with 110 plus decibels. Switching to quiet will offer you even more protection. However, one downside to Loop Switch is their price. At roughly $60, they are more expensive, and due to the mechanical nature, I would say that they're likely more fragile. So depending on what you are getting earplugs for, it may be worth going with one of Loop's dedicated options. For example, if you're using them for sleep, maybe quiet, which is less expensive, and soft is a better option. With all of that said, if you're looking for a more no-compromise solution for sound quality, minimal occlusion, great comfort, great seal, custom musicians' earplugs are really what you are looking for. And if you're shopping in that area, be sure to find a quality music audiologist that can help, because there are many caveats and considerations for those plugs to work as intended. But as I mentioned, Loop, Experience 2, and Switch 2 are some of my go-to earplugs for concerts and everyday use. The only earplug that started to kind of dethrone Loop in my life are Apple AirPods Pro 2 and their relatively new protection feature. But that's honestly another story. If you're interested in using AirPods Pro 2 for hearing protection, leave me a message below and maybe that'll be the next video. That is it for today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed those sound files and listening to some of my experiences and thoughts after using these plugs, and I hope to see you in the next one. Well, that just happened.